So we'll kind of start off from the beginning. So I was reading that your grandfather was a Pentecostal preacher
That's right.
and that you kind of grew up with bluegrass and gospel music around you. So kind of when you were a child, what did faith look like in your life?
Well, faith was always a big part of my life, my family's life. My grandfather was a Pentecostal preacher. Uh, my dad had a gospel quartet that sang in the church and all throughout the Ohio River Valley. Um, Faith and belief and the Bible was a big part of our life. It was the very foundation of our life.
And so then you were musically influenced, obviously from that when you were little, but then you decided to pursue a baseball career for a little bit. So what was it or who was it then that encouraged you to do the music and make that be your main focus?
Yeah, I always thought I was going to be Johnny Bench, the catcher for the Cincinnati Reds,
Yeah.
and but also at that same time, even as a kid, I felt like that God had a plan and a purpose for my life, and I thought it was through baseball, but uh, later on, I just felt my instincts and inner voice just said buy a guitar and start a band and you'll find your purpose in life. And it was through the music. I felt that that through the music that God would use my life and the music and to represent His light and His hope and His love.
So then, as you were creating music, you had
Mm.
a flourishing career in the country genre, and then partway through that, you did release a couple Christian CDs too.
Mm.
So, kind of, how did that decision come into play to step into that genre too? And where does your influence even come for any of the music that you deal with?
Well, interesting that growing up in eastern Kentucky, again on the Ohio River,
Mm-hmm.
right at the boundaries of Ohio, West Virginia, and Kentucky, there was all styles of music from bluegrass, Bill Monroe, Earl Scruggs to a lot of the. My dad had every album of Glenn Campbell, and Merle Haggard, and um, I always loved country music. The Grand Ole Opry was a big part of our Saturday nights, and then Saturday night would roll into Sunday morning, and I'd be at my papa's church and singing spirited versions of "I'll Fly Away" and
Mm.
"Amazing Grace." Even had kind of a blues swing to it, and um, throwing that mix in with the Leonard Skinner, the Allman Brothers, Marshall Tucker, um, Molly Hatchet, a lot of that Southern rock and roll. Charlie Daniels. There was really a melting pot of a lot of different styles of music, and that's kind of where I felt like I loved all styles of music, so I wanted to make all styles of music, and I still use all of those influences to this day. And you ask about the album I did called The Other Side. It was on Word Records, and I was at that time in the midst of doing my first series. It was called Doc,
Mm-hmm.
and Doc was on PAX Television. I played a doctor that's kind of a fish out of a water, working in New York City, and uh, again, the show was about hope and faith and love and um, a bit of a touch by an angel
Mm-hmm.
meets Highway to Heaven kind of thing. And uh, it was during that time period that I felt like musically would be a great time to reach back into my roots and say thank you to Almighty God for so many of my blessings and allowing me to take this journey in His name.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think a lot of people have an underlying kind of impression on who they think God is or an impact that they can have on their life. But what about for you? Like, how do you know kind of the direction that He wants you to go? Like, how do you communicate with Him? Is it through prayer? Do you get this impression on your heart and you know that this is maybe how I should do it?
I wish I had a really methodical answer that, but I have to be honest with you and say I play everything in life by ear, by feel. I play music by ear as an actor. I take the stage as just trying to keep it real.
Mm-hmm.
Again, as an actor and as a singer-songwriter, that's kind of where I'm at. I go with what I feel inside and just try to be honest. And I do the same thing in life. Like, I pray about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pray for the wisdom and vision to do the things I'm supposed to do and be the person I'm supposed to be, to sing the songs I'm supposed to sing, and to act in the shows where I feel like I'm supposed to be an actor. You may know that early in my career, one of the first things I did was Mulholland Drive with
Mm-hmm.
David Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
And it was after doing that film that, I felt like I had one of those one-on-one prayers with God and said, if you want me to be an actor, then send me what you want me to act in. And the script of Doc came, and again, it represented hope and faith and love and believing in more, believing that you can reach your dreams. And I just loved that aspect of it. And till the very last moment, I debated on, should I go to this audition? Should I not? Should I do this? And as I say those prayers, it was always that same answer. It was like, go to the audition. If you get it, then yeah, you're supposed to do that. If you don't, then you're not. But, you're not taking the decision out of God's hands. Go to the audition. And I did, and they hired me. And 4 years later and 88 episodes later, I found myself really maybe being, spending more time as an actor than as a singer-songwriter, which for me kind of blurred the lines a little bit, because I'm really, I'm a singer-songwriter, at heart, first and foremost. Acting became a passion and something that I loved as it grew in the different projects that I took, along with like a country song. And when I read the script, it was just in my heart and mind that this is something that could be part of my purpose, the story of redemption. And again, someone rising above the adversities. And in life, we're all dealt a certain hand to play. And sometimes you get dealt some bad cards, and sometimes you just make some, you might make a bad move. But life is a series of adjustments. And in this story, Bo, the character that I play, had went through some hard times and maybe made some bad decisions through that. But he didn't give up believing. As a matter of fact, when the chips were down, he said, I'm going to give it to God. And that's what I loved about this script. And from the time I read it, there was never a doubt that I'm supposed to do this movie. I do the same thing in my personal life that I do in my professional life. I play it by ear, knowing that life is a series of adjustments, and you make some good calls and some bad calls, and sometimes things just happen, and you make adjustments. It's kind of like when you pull your car up to a parking space that you may have to back into, and it's a little bit tight, and sometimes you might have to pull up a little bit and then maybe crank the wheel to the right, crank it to the left, back up, go forward. But if you take your time, barring an unforeseen catastrophe, you'll get in there,
I love that
And
analogy.
that's kind of life, it's a series of adjustments. And it's like everything, the Bible says, where the people have no vision, they shall perish. I find that in life, that vision is very important. As a matter of fact, that's what I pray for, is that God will give me the wisdom and the vision to do the things I'm supposed to do and be the person I'm supposed to be. It's that vision of when you chart a course to get from point A to point B, staying focused, knowing that for 99.9% of most journeys, you can't see the finish line until you get there. But if you keep doing certain things a certain way and stay focused with that vision, keeping faith that you're going to get there, you just keep putting one step in front of the other and believe.
Well, yeah, within that, navigating any level of fame, wealth, power, exposure, these types of things, you need help trying to figure out how that's going to play out in your life. So what about you having so much success early on and then kind of shifting into acting and still doing and the whole like reality side of things, kind of how did you navigate that, and was there anyone that kind of helped you or identified pitfalls along the way or gave you encouragement in areas where you might have needed it?
Luckily for me, my dad was also my best friend. He was also my counsel at times. He was just a good old boy from Kentucky that had a great deal of common sense, and I would talk to my dad about everything that I would go through in life, different decisions, and he was one of the, having somebody like him in my life that I could really believe in, and that I had a great deal of faith knowing that he wasn't my manager who made 10%, though he would give me his opinion on whatever he was thinking. If I would ask him a question, I could always count on him to be honest, to have, that type of relationship with him. Again, he was my dad and my best friend. Unfortunately, he passed away about 6 years ago of mesothelioma. He worked in the steel mills up in Kentucky, and we got to go through a lot of this journey together. And again, knowing that, his whole life was based on the faith and belief that, the Bible is the living word. It's the truth. And it's knowing that, that Almighty God sent his son to this earth to live and to die, for sinners like me. I'm a very, very imperfect man. I'm the first guy to admit I'm very, very imperfect. I'm actually good at making mistakes. But the one thing I have to say, I'm also pretty good about realizing when the train is off the track. I can make adjustments. And again, that's what the journey in life's all about, is making adjustments.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that resonates with anyone at whatever level, whether you're in high school trying to figure out college or college figuring out career or first time you have a family or any of those types of things. People get a little afraid of the unknown. And I think in acting, that's one of the things that makes actors so great is you step into roles and you're fearless. You just embody these different characters. For you, when it comes to performing, what is it that you enjoy most? And making that transition from being on stage and then doing a different type of performance, did it come very naturally? Is it something that you had to work at?
I've just always loved making music for the pure passion of making music. Even as a kid, music was a big part of my life. Because I threw a baseball right-handed and I would bat right-handed, I just took for granted that I was right-handed, and I'd pick up a right-handed guitar and I couldn't play it. And so I thought that in my family, because most of the members of my family could play music by ear, I just thought that I wasn't given that gift. And then when I traded my catcher's mitt in for a guitar, and I bought a left-handed guitar, it was the moment I picked it up, I realized that I could play, that I had been given the gift. I'd always just had the guitar in the wrong hand and the wrong side, and my brain was wired that I write left-handed and I brush my teeth left-handed, and it never occurred to me to buy a left-handed guitar. I didn't know there was a big difference. So when I bought a guitar and started a band, I never looked back. I was like, this is my purpose and this is what I'm going to do. And going back to your question of when I was a kid, if I'd get up and sing with my dad's gospel quartet, and I loved singing. I loved harmonies. It was their band, their quartet was all about 4-part harmonies and a piano player. And I fell in love with harmony when I was a kid. But at the same time, I didn't think I could play an instrument. So, and I just thought I was going to be Johnny Bench. So, long story short, luckily I did listen to that voice within, and traded my catcher's mitt in and bought a guitar and didn't look back. So, for me, it's still that same feeling. I love making music because I love the music. As we speak, being here today, I had a session earlier today, and then blocked this time to come in and go through our edit and to speak with you here this evening, and then I have another session tonight. Got a great band, a group of players out here in LA that really come together in a great mesh of styles and diversities of all different influences. And the songs that I write, they're not complex. It's life. The things I write about, I write what I'm feeling, and I just write the truth and put it. When I write a song, I hear the music, the melody, and the words all come to me all at once. And I'll take the embryo of what I've got and go and sit with a room full of really talented musicians that mesh together, and it evolves into its own style of music. And again, I love going different directions, and I love coming into a room full of musicians and taking the embryo of what I call my simpleton hillbilly southern rock bluegrass swamp sound, and taking that and harnessing that into what it evolves into with a room full of musicians. That's what I love about making music. It's the process of making the music. I still to this day, when I write a song, I'll immediately start recording it myself, and the first thing I'll do is work out all my harmonies. I'll play guitar and I'll do different harmonies. So when I get in the studio, I've got a lot of preparation and a vision for where I want that song to go.
Content, and then also be able to, move forward with a story that has a little bit more meaningful of a message than just entertainment's sake. While it is entertaining, you feel like when you're done, you've learned a little something, or how to tackle it, or just the encouragement that you might have needed at the time.
Exactly. That's well said. And that's one of the things that turned me on about this film, Like a Country Song. When I heard the song, Like a Country Song, and I had already read the script and thought, man, I love the story of redemption. And I to this day, to a fault, I'll root for the underdog. If I turn on a football game and a team's down 40-0, I'll start rooting for the team with nothing. I love a good comeback. And when I read this script, I loved it. Then the next question for me was, what's the song? And when they sent me the song, and as soon as I heard it, I just thought, man, it's a brilliant, really well-written song with a well-written script and a great message of, again, redemption, turning things around. And I was turned on by the whole score of the songs that were selected for this movie. I point this way because at one time there was an edit of the movie. Now it's the moon.
That's the moon.
We just changed directions a little bit, but it's perfect.
Spin the ball
Epic.
there and
Yeah.
It's epic.
spin the ball and I'll come back.
Really?
There we go.
Oh, heck. Thought the moon looked better.
No,
Well,
I didn't.
And one of the things that I think that you're great at is adaptability. I mean, a film like this reaches all different age groups. It's dealing with, kind of a late teen, college romance. But then it's got the family structure in it. I mean, I remember growing up with Achy Breaky, and then your music career down to your television career, and then you do Disney Channel stuff as your family grows and expands, and you get to do that together, which is a nice thing. And then, from Dancing with the Stars to even Broadway. I mean, I feel like you're never complacent in a very good way. It's like, what's out there next? What can I be doing? How can my fan base evolve or change? So now you've got, little Disney darlings all the way up to, an older crowd that has known you from back then. When you kind of think about that and how your career spanned and just the variety of things, I know this will be hard, but is there kind of like one moment that was super memorable,
Oh, yeah.
or a day or an event that you'll just, man, that's a good memory.
Well, I say this to young people all the time. If I do a seminar or talk to a group about reaching your goals or your dreams, again, my dad being kind of my mentor and somewhat of a philosopher to me. He was just, and again, he would be the first to tell you he was just a good old country boy. But my dad in the, you know, mid-90s said something very profound to me. And it was as simple as, you know, son, it looks like you got all your eggs in one basket. I said, how do you mean that, Dad? He said, well, you're always living and dying by music and radio and, you know, what songs get played. You know, he said, I think you ought to branch out. He said, I always thought you could have one of those Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers kind of careers. And I said, well, I'd love that, but, you know, what's the key? And he said, well, it's easy. You got to branch out into acting. And, you know, then I looked at that and thought, I said, Dad, I'm not an actor. He said, oh, it's just like everything, though. And you just start, you know. And there I was at that time. I guess I must have been about 36, 37 years old, and really had never taken acting serious at all, never dreamed I'd be an actor. But that kind of made sense. Like everything I ever did or accomplished, I never would have got there if I hadn't started and took that first step. And it kind of made sense what he said. You know, you got all your eggs in one basket, so branch out a little bit. So the David Lynch movie came up, and then Doc, and one thing led to another, and some other films and things. And I started realizing that I really loved acting, that acting was a whole lot like making music. The most common denominator being that it's about telling the truth and being honest and taking a moment and making that real. That's what a great song does for me, and that's what that's about, and that's what a good film does, or a good acting role. And even if it is comedy, it's about timing and finding a pocket for that moment, and again, keeping it real, I think, is the common denominator of music and acting. You know, I just kind of started realizing that it's the same, that a scene is like a song, that it has a rhythm, it has a pocket, it has emotion, it has words, and most importantly, it's about taking that moment and that piece of art and making it real. And I'll tell kids to this day, regardless of your profession or regardless what you do in life, you know, two things: always believe that you can be, have, or do anything that you believe that you want in life, as long as you're willing to pay the price to get there and willing to put the work. Nothing in life comes easy. And the best things I've always found are the things you have to work the hardest for. And then, you know, second of all, there's a word it's not very glorified. It's not even a very pretty word, but persistence is an important word. Somewhere along the line, again, my dad working in the steel mills, I had memorized the quote, persistence is to the quality of the character of man what carbon is to steel. And that's true in life. It's about keeping on, even when times are tough. If you get knocked down, you get back up. And persistence, that's the key to your dream, you know, is just don't give up till you get there and believe you can do it. And back to what I'll tell the kids, or if I'm, you know, especially talking to dreamers, sometimes being a dreamer, you know, it's easier not to be a dreamer. But I have to say, unfortunately for me, I was just born a dreamer. And I I think without a dream, without hope, there's really, there's something missing, you know. That being said, I'll say to these kids like that, I'll say, how do you get to be an actor, Mr. Cyrus? What do you do? I say, well, luckily I'm looking at your book now with that picture from the Dodgers on the cover. And I look back at everything I went through in my life. And I really do thank God that I played baseball, because everything in life can relate to that on some parallel, because you never would get a hit in baseball if you didn't keep getting up to the plate. If you get up to the plate and you keep swinging, you're bound to get a hit. You just got to keep swinging. And you get knocked down in baseball, you can either lay there or you can get back up. It's the same thing in life. Sometimes in baseball you strike out, but hey, you shake it off when you get back up. You might throw a bad pitch. You shake it off. Get ready, rock back, and throw another one. But that's the same in life and for the dreamers. Back to the point of the dreamers, it's just think of it as baseball. And you get up to the plate, you play hard, play to win, have fun along the way of the game, and know that anything is possible. I'm still a dreamer. I still believe that for me now it's more about finding my purpose. I don't think God is done with me yet. I still feel like, by all means, I still believe that we're all put here for a reason. And it's about giving back and knowing that, again, I'm a very, very imperfect man. That's why you'll never see me standing on the pulpit saying, do as I do, or, that I'm holier than thou. I'm not. I'm an excellent sinner. And I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm sure I'll make more. But what I do believe is that I was put here for a reason, and maybe part of my reason and part of the story of my journey is to show that, it's about overcoming those trials and those ball games where you're down 9-0, and it's about not giving up and believing that we're all here for a reason. I'm searching for purpose at this point in my life. One of the reasons that I wanted to speak with you guys is I like the fact that you give people hope, especially, again, I'll go to the kids and to the dreamers and to the, sometimes I look at the things I'm going through in life and I might complain about this or complain about that. And then when I really look at the big picture of life and some of the things, again, that people are dealing with in this country and worldwide, my problems are very minute. Sometimes I feel, to even complain about some of the things that I might go through is, I'll get down on myself and say, no, look at what some of these kids in Haiti are dealing with, or kids around the world. I don't have to go very far, whether I'm here in Southern California or back home in Eastern Kentucky or in the heart of Tennessee. There's a lot of folks out there that's really dealing with some tough times, and I think that maybe, at least I like to think that a kid somewhere, somehow, that's maybe going through, some of the things I went through in my life, and as a kid, some of the tougher times, that if they might look at my life and go, well, he said, just keep believing and keep persistence and keep dreaming and have faith. Boy, man, faith faith without works is dead. And if you keep that faith and you just, again, back to baseball, you keep swinging and believe you're going to get a hit, you're going to get a hit.
Yeah.
You just got to keep swinging, and you got to have faith enough to step up to the plate and swing the bat.
Well, one of the things that I love within that is I think fame is such an interesting thing, and I think where it's been and where it's going and where it is now is just it's just interesting. I guess there's not really a category for it. And I think one of the positive things about fame is that people care about you and they're interested in things going on in your life, and so then you can use pitfalls or really things that you excel in order to be tools, like you're talking about, to give them encouragement or to teach them how to do something or pass on advice or show them how you beat an obstacle. And then the other side of it is that people are jealous or upset with their position in life and try to pull others down or feel better about themselves by poking fun of others. So I love that you're allowing your image and your name and your likeness to be used for good and help within people. Is fame what you expected it to be? Is it something that you can wrap your head around? Are there days when you wish it was never there? Are there other days when you can see how it is a blessing?
For every action there is an opposite and equal reaction. And fame is a great example of that. I mean, the higher you rise, the further you have to fall. And it'd be easier than if everything just stayed in the middle and everything was vanilla. But I've never known that in my life. I always had either red hot or ice cold. There was never anything in between. My dad always said, sometimes I would say that to my dad, I'd be, man, why is my life so crazy? Why can't it just be normal? And he had this line, he'd say, there's only two things in the middle of the road, and that's yellow lions and dead possums. And it's pretty accurate, you kind of do gotta, like, in life, you kind of got to swing for the fence, I think, but at the same time, you got to enjoy the game. That being said, about fame, fame is a dangerous animal. You see a lot of, sometimes people get spinning so far, so fast in fame that they just fall off the planet. And unfortunately, I've known too many, and we've all seen too many, and very recent times, that have happened to, for me in particular, Kurt Cobain, who I admired a great deal and became to know him a bit as a friend. And the day that he died, I looked and was devastated I was just getting to know him. He was nice to me, and but it looked like his life was just spinning, so fast. And, you see it on the news today, that there's so many, sometimes, again, fame is dangerous. So you have to approach it with respect and know, that, again, I do think, much is expected from whom much is given, and that word given usually involves quite a bit of work to get to that given. But that being said, I think there's a responsibility that comes with it for yourself and for others. Fame is dangerous.
Was writing your memoir something that you had always wanted to do? Were you encouraged to do it when you actually went through a therapeutic? Were you proud, like, oh, this is my body of work? What were your feelings when you finished that book?
I have mixed emotions. I think that, it could have been better, and a few things kind of got rushed toward the end. Like everything, there's always a deadline and different things of that sometimes blur a bit the creative process. And in a perfect world, writing that book, and it was considerably therapeutic, and there was things that I realized about my life. I didn't realize my life was as crazy as it was until I started writing it down. And again, a problem clearly defined is half solved. And when I wrote it down, I did, it was like, Cyrus, you have lived a crazy life. And, just being able to speak that and know it and see it in black and white was one thing. But there were some things that maybe could have been a little bit more accurate had there not been such a tight deadline. And at the same time, throughout that deadline, there was a pilot I was filming, an album I was finishing. I was going to Broadway to be in Chicago, and all of this kind of came at a year of 2012 was it was one of the craziest years of my life for sure. And I've had a bunch of some pretty crazy stuff in my life, but 2012, and again, it just no middle ground for me. It had to get completely insane as I'm writing, the story of my life, and I'm going, okay, well, this happened when I was a kid, and then all of a sudden I realized that not that much has changed. There's still no middle ground for me. It's either one side or the other, and I'll leave you with this, that when I say one side or the other, I believe that it is a battle in our lives to live for the light, to represent God's love and God's hope and faith and belief. But at the same time, for every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction. And for me, at least, and I think it's true for all of us, the harder you reach for that light, you will find that darkness tries to counteract that, if not overpower it.
Absolutely.
And when you're riding a bicycle, it is so much easier to go downhill than to go uphill. But, you can only coast one direction, and that's down. It's kind of that same way in life. I think that it's easy to just say, okay, I'll just go to the dark side, and I'm just, not feel that responsibility, again of, no, this is about purpose. But to me, a life never was about taking that easy path, and I've always felt that, there's no way a kid from Kentucky goes through this journey and gets to this point just to give up and go, okay, darkness, you win. This is the story of my life. When it's all totaled up, I still think it's about the light, and I still pray to this day, to this moment, to this second, that God is using my life at this moment. Again, back to this film, it never was about the money or the fame. I know it sounds cliche, but I don't do what I do now for money or for fame. I do it for the art and for the purpose of what am I supposed to do with my life. I'm not getting any younger, and I'm striving for purpose. I want my life to mean something, whether it's learning from my mistakes, which again, I've made far more mistakes, maybe than I've done things right. But, if kids especially can look at my life and go, okay, he said this was a mistake for him, so if I can keep someone from making those same mistakes, or if there's things that someone can learn from my life on the positive side, especially this first and foremost, knowing that we all are here for a reason, and I think it's to represent God's light and God's love, and try to make the world a little better place for our fellow man.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time today.
You're welcome.
I really enjoyed it.
It's a pleasure talking with you.
I think
Your crew, you guys, this has been very
you have
comfortable.
excellent analysis.